ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the desk. My name is F. Joined here by DM Brandon. And we've got another European game coming at you live. It's going to be Epsilon versus London Conspiracy.
The almost undefeated Epsilon should have no issue going through London once again, but as we've seen, London showing signs of life throughout the split, keeping themselves in the middle of the pack, definitely in contention for land.
Exactly, and London Conspiracy is that surprise team. We've seen surprise wins taken by basically all of the lower-end teams, but London Conspiracy is the expect the unexpected. We'll take a look at them right here, and really they're able to take games off of the big teams and, well, unfortunately for them, lose games off of the lower-end teams, but expect the unexpected, like I said.
Aero, EmilZ, and Shaggy are constant talking points, but I've been such a fan of the way that both Zashu and Soggy have been playing this season. I think the one issue that I have with this team is ASoggySandal is a terrible name and is rather disgusting.
I mean, I'll have to agree with it. I lived with Bart. It just makes me think of Bart. ASoggySandal. Just too many bad memories there.
It's really gross.
It's funny, though. London Conspiracy, one of the more exciting parts of their gameplay has been their substitute for me. Cherio coming in, not just his play, but because it talks about the culture of the team. They value the practice as a unit, and I think that's really important as we get into these games for London Conspiracy. They need to play all 5 players together at the top of their gameplay if they're going to be able to take out Epsilon.
Well, I mean, it's against them, right? Epsilon, the #1 seed coming out of Europe, 1 game drop so far, no sets, and I think that's largely due to the fact that iRaffer has drafted an absolutely incredible composition of players here. And what's funny is you look at them individually and maybe barring adapting, these are not the players from the last season, actually including adapting, the players from the last season that you go, these players are going to make worlds. Right. He took the 5 most mechanically sound players in Europe that he could find and he put them together and played Moneyball.
That is the perfect reference.
Get on base.
He exactly just figured out the players that would allow him and his team to get to Worlds, and hopefully you get to join us as well. If you go to swc.smitegame.com, you can find all the information that we have leading up to this event. It's going to be January 7th and 10th. There's going to be 10 teams from all around the world, not just NA and EU, but some other regions you might be less familiar with, Latin America, Brazil, and China, all making a showing, all for $1 million.
You know, as a streamer, this is one of my favorite parts of the year because, you know, I go to TwitchCon and I go to PAX and I get to meet fans, but so many people show up to Worlds. You know, we throw the juice party. Like, it's more than just esports. Like, if you're a fan of the scene at all, you got to be there.
I mean, put it this way: my friends that come largely for me and a vested interest in Smite, they call it SmiteCon.
Yeah, it's SmiteCon.
My friends wind up calling it, I call it Worlds. I'm the esports guy. My friends are like, yay, let's go, team.
It's SmiteCon.
Who's in first? I'm here for SmiteCon. That's what my friends do when they come down here. And I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. And, of course, if you're involved in the esports scene, you can get even more involved. Test your knowledge and go ahead to Alpha Draft and see if you can win real money at alphadraft.com.
Dude, whoever picked Elevate to beat TSM yesterday probably made some serious dollars.
That game threw me for a loop because you sat there and I have COG 2 over TSM and I said Elevate. I wasn't very kind to them in my prediction video. I said something not verbatim. I said something really wrong has to happen for TSM to lose this one, and well,
that was definitely not verbatim.
That's exactly what happened. So Elevate really bringing it up. We'll see if London Conspiracy can do the same because they're in a very similar situation. London Conspiracy taking on what seems like a Goliath of the European scene. LC will have first pick, and they'll be able to ban as well.
So one of the biggest issues trying to ban into Epsilon is that these guys don't just have big god pools, they have weird god pools.
Yes.
iRaffer's willing to play Thanatos, right? Emilitoo plays Bellona.
Well,
right?
the Thanatos,
it doesn't make any sense.
We've seen it once or twice, and I don't think we'll ever see it again out of the
iRaffer, he just called you out. You got to pick Thanatos. Do it.
I called him out the second he played Thanatos.
That's fair.
Kepri banned out on the side of Epsilon. And no Giannis. So very sensible bans coming out right now. Really just... we don't like strong gods, so we're going to take them away from both sides of the coin. The final ban going to Epsilon, and we'll see what they take off of the table, and it is going to be the Aphrodite.
Smart. Zashu actually admitted when he won the game with Aphrodite before the healer resurgence that he had almost never played Aphrodite before that, and he dominated. Right, he knows how to play the character well. Right. So for them to take that away in this scenario is probably really smart. But notably, Hell and Serqet make it through. Serqet gets picked up. I imagine Hell's going to get picked up as well. But it's going to be Neith first for Epsilon, which will likely go to Emilitoo.
The Aphrodite ban, just touching on it one more time, doesn't surprise me at all. iRaffer has been doing European in-houses, which is really fun. And they auto-ban Aphrodite in these in-houses. They just don't like playing around it. They don't think it's fun at all. So Epsilon...
I think she's the best character in the game. I think with her plus Mail of Renewal makes an unbeatable combo at 15 minutes. There's just no way to, there's no counterplay.
Exactly.
You weaken, you hit her with all the healing reduction in the world, she's invincible. Doesn't matter.
It's just too powerful. On the side of London Conspiracy, Serqet and Isis picked up. They do have one more choice before London Conspiracy's first round of picks are completed.
But check out the global presence here. Epsilon has Nuwa and Neith, 100% cross-map global destruction. And remember, one weakness Neith has with World Weaver is that she must have vision on her target. Nuwa's ult gives vision to all targets.
It's one of my favorite combinations here on the side of Epsilon because everybody just has 85% HP instead of 100.
So this just in from production, SoggySandal actually not playing today.
Right.
It's going to be Cherio in the jungle.
Which is, SoggySandal has been fantastic, but Cherio has really done a great job at filling in for him. I think, of course, anytime you lose your starter, that's not a good look, but Cherio performed very, very well. He's a all-position player, and in my personal opinion... Herwind is, yeah, he does the same thing. But in my personal opinion, back when Upcoming Stars was sort of fighting to become a little bit better, Cherio in the jungle was their shining player. So I like the Cherio stand-in if you're going to have one. 3 bans come out.
This pick of Athena is great here because it stops that global run, which Epsilon is looking for. You see the Thor coming in. Now, this might be a Thor support. With Ymir being picked up, it's a little less likely because iRaffer has been playing a lot of Ymir.
Ymir is interesting because he has a lot of traditional peel rather in the way of
just a pull. Sylvanas is a pull. He's a freeze.
It's peel like a banana. So you've got the freeze and the wall, but you can also be very aggressive, which is iRaffer's calling card.
This is a very strange pick to see Ullr picked into Neith. Neith, of course, having a lot of CC, and then against Thor and Ymir as a character with no CC immunity whatsoever and no way to break it. Then again, he does have a jump, but it's going to be very difficult for him to keep pace in the mid game against those Thor ganks.
Thor will, or Ullr will be able to stop the Berserker's barrage out of Thor with a well-timed axe. So there's a little bit of upside for the Hunter pick. And of course, Ullr is going to be played by Shaggyshenk here in the long lane, who Ullr's a character that's all dependent on your individual ability, and Shaggyshenk, well, his individual skill has never really been questioned. Guan finishing up the pick phase for London Conspiracy.
Now, there are a few choices here for Epsilon. It still might be Nuwa solo. Lock in, it's going to be Bellona. So it's more than likely going to be Bellona in the solo lane. Now, she doesn't have a way to stop Tallow Assault to the same time. Guan doesn't have a way to stop Bludgeon. So both of them are going to be clearing basically for free.
Right.
Slight, and I mean very slight advantage to Guan in that regard.
Because of the heal, or?
Not because of the heal, just because Tallow Assault clears a little bit faster, right? Until, I would say, level 7 to level 9. And by that point, the wave clear doesn't matter as much. It's that first 3 to 6 levels.
We'll get right into it, folks, as London Conspiracy positions themselves in a group of 5. Shaggyshenk on the Ullr. We're riding along with Zashu. We'll be playing in the soul lane. And again, we do have Cherio in the jungle this time around. SoggySandal unable to make it. But make no bones about it, despite the fact that Cherio has filled in quite a lot recently, just still the substitute. SoggySandal is the go-to starter here for London Conspiracy, just unavailable for week number 7.
Now you'll see the blink coming out from Serqet. Early means that she's going to be looking for possible invade potential, maybe not even invade so much as just aggression at the mid camps. She's looking for a level 2 to level 4 kill on either the mid or the jungle. Most notably, it would be the jungle. Not only do you want to try to shut down adapting as soon as possible, but getting that 450 pot, which had just been activated as fast as possible, is very important. Now, actually, can we hover on Thor? Because this is really cool, and I want to point this out. Hover on Thor, please. Thor started with Mjolnir's attunement.
Right.
It seemed to teleport out of the base 3 seconds after what I like to call the detonate timer, which means you won't get there in time. You'll see he just barely makes it thanks to the fact that he was able to rotate out. He's going to get maximum uptime on this red buff.
That's got to make you so happy. The amount of min-max there is just so... It's funny,
No.
I mean.
See, adapting is now to the point where his little min-maxes no longer impress me. It's the standard that he brings to the table. And now I just get upset when he doesn't do it. It's like glasses.
It's fun, though, because those extra 3 seconds, we've seen adapting actually use these small min-max rewards. So when it comes to play, we get to see it in the flesh. By buying that red pot, though, adapting solidifies that he wants to fight before the ultimate.
So what's cool here, you'll note that early ward placed down by Ymir, I'm pretty sure caught Serqet, which means they knew that Serqet had Blink. Thor didn't even for an instant pretend that he was going to go to those right camps. If you were watching the minimap, it was 100% they go right for those left camps because they don't want to give Serqet that opportunity to fight outside of the wave. They want to make sure there's 3 sources of damage.
Ymir able to show up, being very aggressive. Already used the carpet on the minion wave with the hit from Neith and a great wall. A couple of basics will secure the deal. The backflip not strong enough. And EmilZ lives to see another day.
They're both completely crippled. You're going to see Aero and Cherio getting pushed back as well. Shaggyshenk is even more than crippled. He is absolutely on his last legs at this point. And you take a look at the build, it's smart that he has so many potions for sustainability, but he has a long time before these potions are going to start bringing him back up to relevancy.
I mean, they have to go back to base, and they just can't afford to. The root after the stun, again, Shaggyshenk makes it out by the skin of his teeth. And like I said, Brandon, I mean, London Conspiracy, they have to back. They can't because of the situation. How do they handle this?
At this point, it's just they have to sit back and let the potions tick them up. The issue here is that Emilitoo, while he doesn't have a ton of potions, in fact, he's completely out at this point, you should note that he has Bluestone Pendant, which means that extra tick damage is locking Shet. This is exactly what they want. That was perfect. You'll notice iRaffer threw the wall up. He wasn't going to hit the freeze, and even if he did, EmilZ was going to get the taunt. The jump would have happened either way.
Right.
He earned mana for mana there in a situation where Ullr is going to force himself into a situation where now he's not getting experience.
And you see how this lane dynamic is handled here by Epsilon. They're able to get what they want just by walking at the opponent, just simply by walking. But as you said, the potions, very, very powerful, able to take up London Conspiracy, and now we're back at square one.
Well, this is what needs to happen. It has to be the Serqet, right? She's rotating over. Zashu going to fall for first blood, and it might continue going into the aggressive field. No, iRaffer knows this is happening. I got excited for a second, but they know that he's there.
Fantastic play out of adapting to secure first blood. And again, your jungler tips your hand. Was not level 5 just yet, only level 4. Had that red pot available, wanted to fight before the ultimate goes right on upside. And
immediate teleport. You actually see adapting trying to back underneath the tower right now, or rather behind the tower. Dimi going to be backing as well, looks like for free. I am very, very surprised to see him not take that fight there.
Against Zashu?
Right, I mean, he was sitting in an entire creep wave with no ultimate. Dimi could have landed a few shots, could have disarmed him, had a few options to shut him down, but it looks like he wanted to get back as soon as possible and then immediately run back so he didn't have to buy teleport. You'll note the boots are online here, and he wouldn't have had enough to get full teleport there.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure he didn't miss as many lane creeps as possible. It's the long game here that you're playing for, usually in the solo lane. And when you're playing with Guan and Bellona, Brandon, I think both of them are in it for the long game, not the lane game.
But, I mean, this is a very, I guess, not exciting story that we see adapting getting first blood, right? That the solo is already getting controlled, right? This is what adapting likes to do. It's very similar from the AFK strategy. I guess it's similar because both of them are on the top, right? They like to gank that solo lane a lot. They like to control as much as possible. Adapting a little bit more forward than Weekend, whereas Weekend's only going to be ganking certain lanes at certain times. Adapting's like, you're one step out of position. I'm going to kill you now.
Adapting also tends to lean more on the damage comes from adapting the majority of the time.
Right, whereas
Weekend tends to be the setup man.
Right, he's the initiator.
Exactly.
From what I've heard from emotes and other things.
Which we need to stress is not a bad thing. It's just a difference in playstyle, which is one of the more exciting things, that you get to see 2 top teams in each region, minimal losses with different thoughts on how to win.
So right there, Zashu using his heal a little bit early, doesn't get that extra heal onto the creeps, which allows Dimi to clear the wave a little bit more effectively. Throwing those extra 3 archers into the tower once again is going to make sure that he's losing even more gold, reflecting that in the cost right now. You'll actually see that Dimi is almost 300 gold ahead at this stage with just an assist.
And Dimi actually, or London Conspiracy's solo laner, will actually back. So Zashu's going to back without a teleport available.
He's got to finish those boots up.
Beautiful
ultimate from Yammyn. And a nice World Weaver to shut the aggression down. Cherio not going to get much out of that. Blink going to be on cooldown.
Here comes adapting, lands on 3. The follow-up coming out from the mid laner, Yammyn, not quite there, but here's Dimi making the rotation out of the solo lane. And while a lot of damage is dealt, it's dealt to multiple targets, so nobody falls on the side of London.
Right, but they're still sitting right in the mid lane. Epsilon still has a way to push this down. Emilitoo actually very greedily rotates over. This could be a Gold Fury attempt. Shaggy's still around. No, they're not going to go for it.
Emilitoo.
Yeah, actually might.
No, Op's not too going to go right into the lane. Shaggy's waiting for him, looking for the axe.
Not even
Off
close.
the mark because nice dodge. Just a stutter step. Nothing too flashy. Just stop, keep moving.
Shaggy actually read the stutter step, but he like whipped his mouse way too hard once he like maybe not read it but reacted to it.
Right.
Emilitoo didn't even look phased there walking into lane.
That's really what I was trying to highlight. He just looked. Okay, you're gonna throw an axe. I'm gonna walk right past it, man. No problem.
Still an advantage there between the hunters. Emilitoo a level up right now. Actually, Shaggy just hitting level 8 off that wave. Emilitoo fighting into 2 and efficiently as he sends EmilZ turn tail.
He's got a single minion, so it's sort of a 2-on-2, but not quite traditionally.
It's not a huge advantage in gold there. I would have expected more with the lane denial that was going on. It's only about 150 gold.
Shaggy's ready to fight. I mean, the Transcendence is online, and this Ullr does a lot of damage. You know, you can never really count him out, especially against the Neith with all Neith has is the backflip, which is very predictable. And if you use it, you're going to get hit by a hail of arrows from a good Ullr, which Shaggyshenk is. So.
There was actually a point in time where axe was faster, where you could actually stand switch out of bow and hit them with the axe in reaction to the backflip. Since then, it's been nerfed. It's not as easy of a matchup. It used to be like 100-0.
Right.
And now it's more like, maybe not a 50-50. I feel like Neith has the better clear right now.
Sure.
But in the end game, I would say normally Ullr has that carry potential. But on this comp, it just seems that Emilitoo is going to have a much bigger presence than Ullr is, considering the fact that no one's really peeling for him all that much.
And again, going back to the global situation of Emilitoo and Yammyn combining, everybody on the side of London, if things go the way Epsilon wants them to, their HP pool is lower than they expect.
London Conspiracy actually winning the ward fight there. Yammyn finding a kill onto Cherio, however, 135 gold for a kill onto the jungler. I'm sure the supports are very mixed about the way that went.
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, one support was like, hey, I want a ward, and the other one's like, hey, my team killed your jungler. So,
yeah.
Good luck doing Gold Fury.
Well, London Conspiracy wins the ward fight, but Adapting's going to go in the air.
What is this?
He'll get some vision.
Where's he
Nobody
going?
really a good target. Just barely going to miss because of a quick sniff out by the people in mid lane on the side of London Conspiracy.
Epsilon still leading 2-0 here at the 8-minute mark. Not a big difference in gold. In fact, much smaller than I would have expected. Usually Epsilon has a much larger swing off of 2 kills. If we go to the graphs here for the first time in the game, you'll notice about a 1,400 gold difference. Again, not a massive turn, but as we go back to the items, you'll note Adapting and Serqet, right? Adapting and Cherio. The issue here is that one of them has the heavy mace, right? Which means someone has penetration online. That's a big deal at this stage.
Okay.
Adapting going to be able to get a lot of damage off if Berserker Barrage goes unchecked. Can we actually check out Thor here to see his leveling? I'm sure he's going... No, actually, no. He went for Mjolnir's. He's looking to just swing.
Yeah, Mjolnir's versus Berserker's Barrage. This is one of my... Thor winds up being one of my favorite characters because of sort of the play style. And there are different things that tip you onto the side of either direction, but largely it's the player's choice.
Which is cool. Right? There's not many gods that allow you to do that.
It's basically Thor and Vulcan, right?
Janus, too.
Giannis as well, yeah.
You can go Portal or you can go Threshold, right? Either one works. I've been leaning more towards Threshold these days.
Oh, yeah. Portal... I like to leave Portal low. I like when players leave Portal low because it keeps the mana cost down, and it's an escape option.
It's true.
So just like you want to, most of the time we see players leave their jumps and their leaps very low because of that. I like to see players use the same thing in mind when it comes to the portals.
All players, though, on Epsilon have a slight advantage, or at least over their enemies, with the exception, it looks like, of the Hunters. Emilitoo actually almost dead even with the Ullr right now.
Yeah, it's separated by less than 100 gold, it looks like, or maybe just about 100. And really, this lane has been going as such. Ullr is able to clear the way very, very well with the Transcendence online, only having to deal about 2 or 3 basics to the large minion up in front. And Neith, I mean, it's Neith. You're able to clear no problem with a Spirit Arrow Plus.
Clear in the mid lane. Red team getting that one down pretty quickly. Aero able to respond. The issue, right side camps have already respawned. Gonna go to red. Left side camps about to come up. I'm looking for sentry wards here. It looks like Shaggyshenk has one, but vision control right now towards the Gold Fury does still belong to red.
Aero does pick up his matching red buff as well. Walled off.
Here. Nope.
Epsilon picks up no problem. So that'll be a good look for Epsilon as they head back into the lane, eking out about a 2,000 gold lead. EmilZ makes the first engagement, taunts 3, Spirit Ball only stuns 1, and iRaffer able to deter the rest of the fight.
I don't know what iRaffer was doing with that freeze, though.
It was just scary enough to make London Conspiracy walk away. Mission accomplished.
I like the ult, though, the fact that he immediately ulted in response, just in case Athena decided to stick around for too long. They had a lot of options there, and I don't think Adapting was in too much trouble. You see, he didn't burn his beads. Yammyn didn't burn his ult or anything else. Like there was not really a big worry for him there. They may have gotten the beat. Oh,
Aero takes a big hit. That's what happens when you max up Mjolnir's attunement. But what I liked about that, Brandon, was the quick thinking. The taunt came out, and they realized it's an Isis. She doesn't have a Raw Beam. She doesn't have a Kukulkan ult, right? So there is no immediate need for peel. So he goes directly in the ultimate as area denial.
So Guan Yu has a teleport here, and it's full, which means he can join this fight if he needs to. So far, it looks like just posturing. Emilitoo doesn't quite have the damage with that Soul Eater to be able to burn this down quickly. Athena jumps in. She's going to get frozen. She's taking a lot of damage.
Problematic for the side of London Conspiracy. They lose their support right away. And because of that, there's a forced teleport by the Guan Yu. So the ranks are still here. 4 members of London Conspiracy, and that's enough to chase Epsilon off of the Gold Fury and return to lane.
This is big.
They get a kill.
That's really big for Epsilon. Getting the 1-0, but more importantly, forcing Zashu to have to teleport to that fight to control it. You'll see that all the while, Dimi's been alone in this lane. Now, since he only has level 1 teleport, he'll have that active and not have to worry about major rotations. At this point, Guan Yu can't really leave the lane anymore.
He just can't. We saw what happened last time Guan Yu backed without having that teleport up. He lost 50% of his tower. He does not have the luxury to do that because you only have 100% to deal with.
And check this out right here. We're going to probably see a teleport come out. We saw a full buy of the teleport right there from Dimi. And no, wow, 2 people from London going to force them off the Gold Fury.
Epsilon right now, they're leading the game. They have 2,000 gold. They're getting a couple of picks. They, of course, got first blood on the side of Adapting in the solo lane, and they've just been inching away at this lead. And if the game keeps going this way, as we saw Elevate versus TSM Game 2, you'll just win that way. By going for the Gold Fury, potentially steals. If the Gold Fury is stolen, Brandon, it's a tie game.
One of the biggest, I would say, adages in sports that when you're in a lead, you protect the lead, right? It's something that I definitely follow when I'm in Smite as well. But the difference between most traditional sports and a game like Smite is that you're not playing against the timer, right? The timer actually helps you. If you can last longer against a team that's ahead, you're generally going to even out the playing field because a 4K difference at 40 minutes means a lot less than a 4K difference now. Beautiful kill by Yammyn, by the way. Set up completely by Dimi, able to rush that one down. But this is what Epsilon does, is right there, they're protecting the lead, right? They're not forcing the Gold Fury if they don't need it, right? They'll get off it if it's contested. They already have the lead. They don't need to increase it dramatically. All they need to do is force fights that they can win, just like they did in the solo lane, or just like they did at the Gold Fury to kill Athena, and just pressure them away from farm. Let the timer do the work.
And that's exactly what Epsilon's doing, picking up another kill in the solo lane off of Dimi. Credit goes to Yammyn, but largely the damage dealt by Dimi in the solo lane against his direct opponent, Guan Yu. And that gets Epsilon their 4th kill, and in turn about 3,000 gold in the lead, give or take. And that's pretty much the game plan out of Epsilon, just inch by inch. No need to take the real big risks. I think once we see another 1,000 gold or few, or even right now, they'll go directly for the Gold Fury. We'll see if Epsilon want to take the fight. And they do want to take the fight. That's what I thought.
So smart of EmilZ to have that charged up the whole time. He leaves Preemptive Strike charged up so that way in case he does recognize that he's getting baited, he can jump out. The issue is whether he was baited or not, he's nowhere near where he needs to be. Isis is not going to get through. Epsilon gets an absolutely free Gold Fury. Again, Radford way off the mark on that freeze.
Adapting lands on the backside, picks up 1. Yammyn gets credit for it. All the damage being dealt by Berserker's Barrage. EmilZ forced out of the fight. And again, Epsilon content to just take 1. 5 kills on the board now for the team in red. And they lead by 5,000 after the kill and the objective.
Dimi right now running one of my favorite builds, the hammer dual wield, right? It's the Frostbound Hammer, Runeforge Hammer run. He has Heavy Hammer right now. This allows him so much frontal space control that there's no way to really get past him safely.
That hurt. Just gets walled off.
That hurt my body.
Talk to the wall because Ymir's not listening.
I didn't say to do all that, man. Oh, what is it? National Mean Girls Day, right? Or was that yesterday?
Yesterday was National It was something ridiculous that I did not observe. But if today is National Mean Girls Day, you know I'm going home and watching it. That's one of my favorite movies.
I wish you guys could have seen the hand motions that he did.
I'm not, Brandon, I'm not even kidding. It's one of my absolute favorite movies.
I know. After this, we're going out for pumpkin spice lattes.
I mean, I'm down, but you go, Glen Coco.
My God. All right, so Epsilon once again showing exactly what they're worth, right? They get a free Gold Fury immediately, push for a fight that they win dramatically. They go for a mid lane tower. They don't quite get it, but they force 2 ultimates, and iRaffer shuts both of them down with just a Ymir wall, right? This is what Epsilon does.
And I think it's worth noting, Brandon, that Epsilon, they were going in that last Gold Fury for what I call the option select. They started the Gold Fury with no intention of going for it. They wanted the fight.
Right.
But if you never come fight us, we'll take the Gold Fury, no problem. So Epsilon get, their cake and eat it too. They get the Gold Fury, and they force a fight, and they're going to do the same thing one more time. Freeze coming out from the Ymir. An arrow gets 1 kill, but adapting answers directly back.
Oh.
The pop after arrow's ultimate, and they're going to force kill onto Chariot.
They're still trying to press forward as well. Mjolnir's attunement coming back offline. Can we see a stun to Mjolnir for the kill here? No, just off the mark. And it probably would have taken Shaggy down. Beautiful shot, he's got him anyway.
The help from the Hunter. And now Arrow in a little bit of trouble, adapting with the double kill off of the sweet, sweet assist from the Neith of the long lane. Great play as a team by Epsilon there to get their 9th kill, where London Conspiracy puts themselves on the board. The mid laner Arrow picks up 1.
A 4-for-1 exchange in that fight, plus, of course, the mid lane tower. Let's go to the graph side and just see how it's shaping up.
Emilitoo goes ahead, wins the team fight in the mid lane, comes to the right side, and he says, adapting, let's do it again. All of a sudden, Neith and Thor aggressing onto the players in the solo lane, but Epsilon going to play this one safe. Again, very careful here is Epsilon.
It was smart of adapting to not take that fight. He has low mana, right? The health wasn't that big of a deal. He can deal the damage through Zashu. It's the mana that's an issue. He's making sure that he doesn't put himself in a spot where he's going to get caught. Remember, he's 4-0-3 right now compared to a Guan Yu who's 0-2. A trade is nowhere near in Epsilon's favor. So adapting decides, I'm just going to get out of this fight. I'll let him farm up a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. It's late game Guan.
Exactly. Just got to be careful and being able to gauge. That's what's important. Being able to gauge the damage you deal, but more importantly, sort of the gas in your tank. Mana is exactly that. And being able to gauge what engagements you can and cannot take based on health is sort of step 1. You get to the next level by being able to look at your mana and saying, all right, I can stun and berserkers, but I can't Mjolnir's out. And if I get into trouble, I'm out of mana, and that's problematic. So opting to play it safe, not take the fight, another win for Epsilon.
Oh, beautiful axe. Emilitoo in trouble. Actually, the taunt not going to land there. An immediate turnaround is going to find 2 with the weave. Getting in that choke point against Neith. They're going to take some damage. And again, the 2v1 doesn't work.
Well, the 4v1 might work.
Here comes the wall.
Comes 1 wall. Second wall, there it is. Horse does get out of it, has to run through an obstacle course, but Epsilon here, they're going to chase underneath the tower, looking for the freeze is iRaffer, but he's just looking for the spacing, allowing his team to go ahead and clean up the tower. Meanwhile, left-hand side, Shaggyshenk gets a kill onto Neith with some help from his teammates, and they'll push down to tier 1, and it looks like London looking for a tier 2.
I should see a teleport. Yeah, there it is. Dimi's going to hold 3. He still has Eagles Rally, probably not going to be too pressured here. Oh,
he might run into some trouble. That's a Serqet, but the up-down out of the solo laner stuns 2. And the tower hitting EmilZ. Yammyn gets the kill onto Chariot, forced out by Dimi. And EmilZ will get out, but just barely. Taking a look at the map, there comes adapting. Stun, strong, double tap. Not quite because of a blink.
You'll note that blink. That is not a combat blink. He actually was out of combat long enough because of the stun from the Spirit Ball. Mjolnir's never actually hit for the damage, so he just barely escaped that one.
Combat and Smite is damage, not interaction. Key point there. Here comes interaction from Ymir. Freeze, but beats out by Arrow. Protection from the EmilZ ultimate. And London Conspiracy ready to look at iRaffer again, who's all by himself.
1-for-1 trade overall as the fight washes, but the difference was a tier 1 for a tier 2. Gold difference again scaling in favor of Epsilon as they increase their lead to 7,000.
500 gold earned by London Conspiracy for the tier 1. 1,500 earned by Epsilon there on the right-hand side. And a lot of what happened there, not just in the securing of making sure only one tower went down, but the fight in the solo lane was off of adapting. Take a look at him versus the substitute jungler Cherio. It's a very interesting matchup.
So one of the more interesting stats in Smite, or any sport, right, is going to be KDA in esports, right? And with that, usually the less amount of games that you've played, the higher it's going to be, right? Kabam and I think Madman Mark having insane stats. But Adapting has 18 games played with a 10.8 KDA.
That just speaks to how incredibly dominant he's been. 17-1 wins, losses, that's a team stat, right? GPM, still a team stat, based on how well your team is doing, objectives, etc. When it comes to KDA, that's an individual stat. The man just doesn't die that often, Brandon.
Oh, a teleport coming out from Guan Yu. That's going to be maybe a wasted cooldown as they try to defend something that they really didn't need to.
Adapting.
Does he notice?
I don't know if he sees what's going on here, but it's enough to scare Shaggyshenk away as Epsilon walks over a ward and Dimi jumps over a wall onto 2 members of London Conspiracy. LC forced out into their corridor, 4 members deep. Epsilon, no problem.
They are very, very happy right now on the side of London because whether it was a silence or a stun, something stopped that bludgeon slam from going off. And the swing, the spin, hit 3 people. That almost doubles the damage of the bludgeon slam. That would have been a death.
It was a lot of damage potentially coming out from Dimi. It's protected, so the lives are preserved, but the objective is not. And Epsilon winds up even more so in the lead. 10-2 read the kills and the gold, telling the same story. 8,000 or so in the way of Epsilon.
One of the reasons I love Epsilon so much, and I always look towards the top tier teams who are keeping ahead of the meta.
Right.
Take a look at the item builds.
Sure.
2 people have Mail of Renewal, right? Best item in the game, right? Then you have, and I love this, a Weakening Curse plus a Pestilence.
The Pestilence.
This is just to stop the healing from Guan Yu and from the healing burst from Circle of Protection. They have counter-built Isis completely, because if one person dies in that fight, the Mail of Renewals are going to keep people alive long enough so that Isis can't burst them down. Then she has no healing for sustainability, and all they have to do is focus down on Ullr, who has no escape mechanics.
I love the Pestilence. We don't see a lot of this item, Brandon. And it's largely, and this is a situation where if you think about counter building against healing, it's weakening first. That's the first item you go to, and then you sort of go down the line from there. Pestilence, usually very low on the totem pole. But why is that the case?
Usually it should be, right? Magic damage is a big deal, but it looks like they're trying to counteract Isis completely.
Right.
They're just going to try to shut her down, and by doing that, they're looking for iRaffer to get into the front line and just make Isis hate her life. It's going to be freezes and walls and slows and everything he can do to shut her down while basically taking no damage. This is going to allow Adapting and Yammyn to get just that 1 or 2 kills. And remember, with those global ultimates, they're more likely to get the Mail of Renewal procs.
EmilZ does have a global ultimate, but it's going to be on cooldown. iRaffer goes directly under the tower, channels the ult, and deals a ton of damage. Adapting comes over the top, puts a dot on it, takes out aero from the mid lane. Dimi chasing, gets up the kill. Cherio going to be forced into the base problematically. Zashu will get out of there no problem on the horse, but with nobody left to defend, that leaves Epsilon to take what they want. They leave the Phoenix, take the tier 2, and go directly into the jungle. One can only guess where they're headed.
Starting it up immediately. No question whatsoever. The only real potential of steal they have is going to be something like Hail of Arrows, and for some reason, Shaggyshenk decides that this is not worth his time. He's going to go to the left side. They're doing back camps. This one's looking like GG Dot.
I mean, London Conspiracy definitely gave up the Gold Fury intentionally.
That was hilarious. He tried to Mjolnir's out of the fight and instead got knocked up into 2 pools of lava and took 50% himself.
Fire Giant's no joke these days.
I love the new Fire Giant.
I do too. I think there's a lot of fun to it, and it's actually really interesting. I know you always like to bring up MMOs. Who do you think is the best team when it comes to the Fire Giant?
I don't know. Maybe Cloud9.
I really like watching what Denial does with the Fire Giant. I think that they handle their situation very well. It's very rare to see them really take a lot of damage from it, and it's worth noting that a lot of their players, most notably ShadowQ, are longtime MMO players.
That's true. one thing they do that not a lot of other teams do from what I've seen from comms is they coordinate their damage for the execute very well.
Yes.
You know, back when Hand of the Gods was still there, they would communicate, you know, at like 45%, burst now Hand of the Gods immediately, right? They did that very, very well. I think Denial's biggest weakness right now is they're not getting to that phase.
I agree. But again, going back to the objectives and how that is a standard run-of-the-mill MMO boss mechanic.
Yes.
Just, all right, here's a burst phase. I mean, XT and Ullr, like you could just go down the line, and that experience from other games translates here. It's interesting to see that really come into play.
Kill the heart.
As Epsilon just tearing it up, picks up the Fire Giant, taking all of the structures off the map. Not a single tower remains on the side of London Conspiracy.
Take a look at the graphs once again. You'll note a lot of this gold is in hand right now, given the fact that they didn't have a chance to back after that tower, but they're going to be rushing right into this left side Phoenix.
iRaffer leading the charge as per usual. They're going to split just a little bit. Emilitoo being sent to the mid. The rest of the squad sent to the left. Emilitoo not going to join. Here comes iRaffer looking for the double freeze. He picks up one. It's a fancy sidestep by Aero. Narrowly avoids the stun. Here comes London Conspiracy trying to be a little bit defensive. And, well, they do it. They push Epsilon off. But when Yammyn puts out those minions, you can't do much of anything. And with all the attention on the left-hand side, Emilitoo able to pick up the Phoenix, no problem. Adapting picks up one over the top. Freeze is good from Ymir. And the left-hand side will fall as well. London Conspiracy have a single Phoenix on the board.
Yeah, that was all the global presence. Yammyn goes up into the sky the same time as Thor does, and they land at the same time on Cherio. He had no idea what was happening. He died before he had any chance to react. All 5 members of Epsilon still going strong here as the Titan gets lower and lower, sitting under half at this point. I don't think there's a defense to be made. Horse or not, first game going to Epsilon.
Going to Epsilon in spectacular fashion, really. London Conspiracy did not find any real footing in that game,
Not whatsoever. That was 100% Epsilon. Every single fight where they lost a person, they gained at least double.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're just joining us, it was interesting because we just came out of another European matchup, Fnatic, and Game 1 for Fnatic went very much the same.
Yeah.
Their opponent really didn't have anything to do with game number 1, but when game number 2 came, there were a lot of adjustments being made. Dignitas, their opponent, almost won.
I don't understand how Shadow Nightmare plays Kukulkan the way that he does. He hits every ult.
Exactly. And adapting over here in the Soul lane, didn't even need an ult to go ahead and pick up first blood. A quick hammer in, and a Berserker's Barrage out.
That was the most basic play of all time, but there was so much skill involved, right? You're going to note he was player of the game. Like, just walking into that one, he blocks off his pass so that even if he wanted to ult, he couldn't. Right? Then he gets the double tap off it, teleports perfectly behind him to make sure he takes the least amount of damage possible, and then doesn't even go right into Berserkers. He does a perfect, I mean, frame perfect auto attack cancel to guarantee top damage there. This is why people are hailing him as the best jungler, best player in Europe, and possibly at this point the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big things and the little things. Big things right here, just a big ultimate going extremely aggressive into the back line.
See,
huge
again,
play.
It looks basic. It's Thor ulting, but he's always waiting for Yammyn to go first to see who the most critical target is. We're going to see this soon again. Look at this, blocking the path off. Doesn't go for the stun. He didn't need the stun. He just makes sure that he can't walk into the fountain for free and then takes him out. That's my man.
And that's what we saw a lot of attention to the walls, not just out of Guan Yu.
Right.
And I don't think Ymir was drafted for the wall, but it was a nice bonus.
Certainly wasn't drafted for the freezes.
Exactly. In that the characters couldn't escape. Even if you don't get the stun, the wall is problematic for an ulting Guan Yu. I mean, we saw Guan Yu stuck a couple of times.
Alpha Draft top performers for this game, I imagine it's going to be a lot of Epsilon.
Yeah, up on top, adapting, no surprise, they are our player of the game. And the bottom is Dimi, who still did very, very well.
Dimi had a good game.
Emilitoo was a big part of that final push there. Secured the mid Phoenix all by himself, allowing, just a split up, very intentional play coming out from the guys on Epsilon.
You know, I had the pleasure of meeting iRaffer and talking with him for a long time last year at the European Regionals, where Mortality was slated to go to Worlds, and then didn't. It was a huge upset when SK burned through that bracket, and I'm really excited. You know, at this point, I don't think there's literally any way they don't go to LAN.
Yeah, mathematically they go to LAN.
They are guaranteed. So I'm really excited to be able to talk to iRaffer again. I mean, he has such a brilliant mind for the game, and unfortunately, London Conspiracy is going to have to experience more of that as we go into Game 2.
Yeah. Right.